Hello everyone. Welcome to the new session of Orchard Management Part 1. In this session, we are going to study about establishment of orchard, how to establish an orchard. We will study about the location site for the orchard, preliminary operations that is required for an orchard, and also planning of an orchard. So all these topics we are going to study about in this particular session. So the first thing, establishment of orchard. So establishment of an orchard is a long-term investment and deserves a very critical planning. Yes, it is a long-term investment. Why we are saying this a long-term investment? Because you need a big land, a big piece of land, and that particular land will be a good investment, right? You need a proper land for the making an orchard, right? And for that you need a investment, and this is a quite long term investment, because the orchard in which we generally grow fruits, vegetables and flowers, right? So for the growing of fruits, vegetables and orchard, we required a proper piece of land, and that crop grow in a duration of time, a particular duration of time. For that particular duration of time, this piece of land will be investment to an orchard. Okay, and it is a very critical planning. It is not an easy planning to make an orchard, right? It is a quite critical planning. The selection of proper location and site. Yes, to make an orchard, we need a proper location, a proper site, okay, to make an orchard. Planting system must be followed and planting distance must be followed. Choosing the varieties and the nursery plants have to be considered carefully to ensure the maximum production. So these are some of the very important points that must be taken in consideration when we are planning for an orchard, when we are establishing an orchard. What are those? Location and site. What will be our location, right? It cannot be in a city, first of all thing. And the planting system we are following for the orchard is very different from the crop production or the agriculture, that is for the cereals, pulses. Okay, planting distance. Yes, this is also very important. For the orchard, we cannot plant our fruits trees very close together, because for the fruit trees we require proper spacing, so that when the trees become quite enlarged, it get proper sunlight, proper air. Okay, and what are the varieties that we are choosing for growing in orchard? The varieties of actually the fruits, right? Which fruits we are going, that is also dependent on our location where we are. Like, we cannot plant some of the fruits that are growing in the cold regions to the southern region, right? So this is a very important. According to the site, according to the location, we are choosing the varieties that we are going to grow in our orchard. And the nursery plants have to be considered carefully to ensure the maximum production. So to have a maximum production, we must follow the some of the criteria that should be taken in consideration very carefully for this particular orchard management, right? So these are some of the points that we must follow, that are the location and site, planting system, planting distance, choosing the varieties, and the nursery plant that we are considering, right? So these are some of the very important points. Next, location and site. What is the location where we are going to establish an orchard? That is very important. Proper selection of site is important, and selection may be based on the following criteria. So we are selecting the piece of land, okay, for making an orchard on the basis of some of the criteria. So let us see what are those criteria. The location should be in a well-established fruit growing region because one could get the benefit of experience of other growers and also get the benefit of selling the produce through cooperative organization with other fruit growers. So this is very, very important that we must choose a location for making an orchard or establishing an orchard. The location should be in a already fruit growing area, because you will know what are the pros and cons of growing fruit, right? So there will be some other fruit growers that with that you can consult if you are having any type of problem. If you are choosing a location that is totally away from the other fruit growing areas, then you will be not getting so much information about the fruit growing, right? So one could get the benefit of experience of other growers, yes, and the market will be very near to you. Okay, the benefit of the selling produce through the cooperative organization, you will be well aware with the help of other fruit growers. So this is one of the very important point. There should be market close to the area. Yes, our this market where we are going to sell our fruits, that should be not very far away from our location, because if we are having our orchard far away from the market, then transporting all those fruit will be a great task, right? And fruits are perishable. So suppose you are having a fruit that can be perish in a 1 or 2 days, then there will be a great loss. So if your market, if you are selling your fruits in a market that is very close near to your location, right, then it will be a great help. The climate should be suitable. Very, very important. You must choose a particular type of fruit in your orchard that is suitable to that particular climate, right? You must not opt. Suppose your orchard is in a Deccan Plateau and you are growing the fruits that is grown in the cold regions, suppose in the Himalayan regions, then it will not be a good option, right? Because that climate is not available. So it will not support to grow that particular fruit. So according to the climate, you must choose your fruit crops. Adequate water supply should be available round the year. This is also one of the very important point that one must keep while considering the establishment of a new orchard, that supply of water should be available throughout the year. Whenever you required a water, the water should be available, right? So the adequate water supply should be available around the year. Before a grower select a site for establishing a new orchard, we must have assessed the following factors. So if a grower is selecting a piece of land to establish an orchard, so what he must consider: suitability of soil, its fertility, the nature of subsoil and soil depth. So the first thing, he must do the research on the suitability of soil, how the soil is suitable to the crops, the fruit crops he want to grow in that particular orchard, whether it is suiting to that particular crop or not. Its fertility, what is the fertility of that soil? The nature of subsoil, this is also very important. Generally people ignore, they just consider the top layer of the soil. No, nature of subsoil is also very, very important. Okay, and also the soil depth, because your tree needs to grow deep into the soil. And if it is a rock is very not at the available at not at the deep depth, then the tree will not grow properly. So the soil depth is also very, very important. Site must have proper drainage and no water stagnation during the rainy season. This is also very important, that there should be a proper drainage availability. There should be proper water availability throughout the year. And there should not be any type of water stagnation, that water get collected in your orchard and the stagnation is there. So that can harm the tree, that can harm the fruit crops, right? So there should not be any type of water stagnation during the rainy season. So this is again one of the important aspect that one should keep in mind. So the first one is the suitability of soil, its fertility, the nature of subsoil, and the soil depth. This must be considered. Second point, site must have proper drainage and no water stagnation during the rainy season. This is also important. Next, irrigation water must be good quality. The water which you are using for the irrigation, that should be of a good quality. It should not be any type of a stagnant water. Okay. There must be proper transport facilities either by road or rail within the reach. So this is very, very important, that your location must be very near. Your orchard should be very near to the road or any railway facility, so that you can transport whatever the crops you are growing easily to the nearby market. Okay, so whether the climatic conditions are suitable for the fruits to be grown, and our weather site is free from the limiting factors such as cyclones, frost, hailstorms, strong hot winds. This should also be considered, that this particular area is not having cyclones, frost, hailstorm, and strong hot winds during the adverse climatic condition, right? And you should know whatever the climatic condition that is coming throughout the year, and that is suitable for the fruit crops that you are going to grow in your orchard. So these are some of the very, very important points that you must consider. Whether there are seasonal gluts or overproduction in any particular period of the year, right? So seasonal glut should not be there, so that should also be considered, or overproduction in any particular period of the year. Whether there is assured demand in the market for the fruits to be grown, yes. Whether there is a demand or not for the crop that you are growing, for the fruit crop that you are growing, you must assured prior to the growing any fruit crop, so that there should not be any type of loss, right? So whether there is assured demand, get assured that there is a demand for this particular fruit that you are planning to grow this year. Get assured before growing that. So one farmer should do a research, right, before planting any crop, right? So whether there is a sure demand in the market for the fruits to be grown, whether his orchard is a new venture or whether there are already other growers. Yes, you are the only the person who is having an orchard in that particular area, or there are some other growers also. Whether you are going to face a lot of competition there, if you are going the same crop and already that particular crop is in great availability and the demand is less, then it is a risk. So you can opt for some other crop that is in great demand, and the availability of that particular type of fruit is less, so you can plant to that particular fruit crop. So all these research one must do before growing any fruit crop, before establishment of orchard, right? Availability of labor. This is also one of the very important aspect, because you cannot do all your work. You are dependent on the labor, right? For management of the fruit crop, for harvesting the fruit crop. Okay, for there are a lot of things that you have to manage in your orchard, right? For all those management you require labor. So this labor is available, whether it is available or not, around your orchard. So this should also be considered. Preliminary operations. So what are the some of the preliminary operation that one must do after selecting the suitable location and site? Some preliminary operation have to be done. Okay, so we have chosen the piece of land for establishing our orchard. So now what? The preliminary operation that we must keep in mind. Trees are felled without leaving stumps or roots. So when there is a felling of trees, that should not leave any type of stumps or roots in the ground. First thing. The shrub and other weedy growth are also cleared. Deep plowing is essential to remove big roots. So if big roots are there, shrubs are there that is having a deep roots, or the tree that already have fell down and their roots are present deep inside the earth, that should be removed properly, right? The shrub and other weedy growth also cleared, so that there should be proper growth of the fruit crop. The land should be thoroughly plowed. Means plowing is very important before planting any fruit crops. Leveling should be done and manure should be added. So these are the some of the operations, that preliminary operations before planting any tree. Remove all the deep plowing. Deep plowing is essential for removing the big roots that are present in the ground. Shrubs and other weedy growth that should be removed. The land should be thoroughly plowed, leveled and manured. So these are some of the points. Other points, leveling is important for the economy of irrigation and preventing the soil wash. If you are not doing your leveling properly in your orchard, then the irrigation will not be proper. The water will not reach to the, you can say, roots of the plant properly. So if the land is leveled, properly leveled, then all the irrigated water will reach properly to each plant, right? And it also be preventing the soil wash, because if it is not level, then water can be washed away from the upper surface of the soil. So this leveling is one of the very important tasks. In the hills, the land should be divided into terraces depending upon the topography of the land, and the leveling is done within the terraces. Another important point, if we are making our orchard on a hilly region, then you know that hilly region is having this terrace farming, and this terrace should be managed in such a way that every terrace should be leveled. Okay, and we are planting trees over here, so these trees should be planted on a level land, so there should not be any type of soil wash. Okay, so depending upon the topography, our land should be leveled properly. The contour or the terrace farming is one of the very important, you can say, one of the topography in on which the cropping is very difficult, right? So it is a great challenge to have a growing crop on these contour or the terrace, right? So one should keep in mind that leveling is one of the very important aspect if we are opting a contour or a terrace farming, right? So that should the land should be leveled at the terrace level, so that there should not be any type of soil washed. Terrace protects the land from erosion. Very important. This terrace, it protects the land from erosion. The soil is poor. It would be advisable to grow green manure crop and plot it in situ so as to improve its physical and chemical condition before planting operations are taken up. So the soil is quite poor here. So it is advisable to grow green manure crop. Manure that could be added, that could be plotted in situ at that place, and it can improve the physical and chemical condition of the soil, so that when you are growing any fruit crop there, so the manure is there, the nutrients are always available in the soil, and that our fruit crop can flourish in a proper way, right? So this is very important, as we have a great challenge to grow crops on the terrace, because there is one thing, risk of soil erosion, right? Another thing, soil is poor, so you have to increase the nutrient, you have to properly add the manure to that particular soil. So all these operation one must do before growing any type of crop. A careful plan of the orchard is necessary for the most efficient and economic management. So all these planning should be done. Without planning, we cannot manage an orchard. So all these planning should be done before planting any fruit crop. The following points should be borne in mind in preparing the plan. First one, optimum spacing to accommodate maximum number of trees per unit area. Because you know that fruit crop, when it is fully grown, its canopy cover a particular area. So if we are planting our trees very close to each other, then there will not be proper growth of the plant, right? So when they are fully grown, their canopy will be while very compact, and there will be the competition for the nutrient from the soil. There will be competition for the availability of water from the soil. There will be competition for the sunlight as well. And if one of the tree is in a danger of any type of disease, then it can easily transfer the disease to the near one if the tree is very close together. So the proper and optimum spacing is very important, right? But we know that our land is limited, so we should not plant to a great distance also, right? So the proper optimal spacing to accommodate maximum number of trees per unit area, that should be considered and that should be followed. Store and office building in the orchard should be constructed at the center for the proper provision. Suppose this is a piece of orchard, right? This is a land. So our office, or you can say whatever place where one should stay and manage the growth of the trees, the harvesting of the trees, the proper management of the trees, that can be done, right, properly, and it should be placed in the center of the orchard. So the store, we have to keep a store also. Whatever this, when the harvesting is done, all that should be collected in a store, right? So the store and office building in the orchard should be constructed at the center for proper supervision. Wells should be located at the convenient place in the different parts of the at the rate of one well for the 2 to 4 hectares. Suppose we are having a well in our orchard, right? So if for 2 to 4 hectare of a piece of land or an orchard, we must have one well. Each kind of roof should be assigned to the separate block. We must, if we are having 2-3 types of fruits, then we must divide our whole orchard in blocks. Suppose this is a block for one type of fruit, this is a block for second type of fruit, and this is the block for the third type of fruit. So we can have our planting in such way that if we are growing 2-3 crops, then it should not be random. It should be in a block wise. So block 1, block 2 and block 3 for 3 different types of fruit crops. Fruits ripening at the same time should be grouped together, right? So if we are having a ripening of fruit, all the fruits of the same type, then and you have planted at the same time, then you will have the fruit ripening also at the same time. So the fruit ripening at the same time, that should be grouped together. The pollinators should be provided in the deciduous fruits. In deciduous fruits trees, there are some varieties which require pollen from another variety to set fruit in them. Otherwise, they will be barren. So, these pollinators are very, very important. So, that keep in mind that should be available, right? Provided in the deciduous fruits. Such pollen donors are known as pollinators. So we all know that there are so many flies, right? Very important. Bees. That is an excellent pollinator. So pollen donors are known as pollinators. Every third tree in every third row should be planted with a pollinator. So there must be some pollinator. So irrigation channel should be laid along the gradients for most economical conduct of water. So we must create some channel in our orchard, and channel can be divided in such a way that every part of our orchard, the water can be available very easily. So the irrigation channel should be laid along the gradients for most economic conduction of water. Gradient means, suppose we are having 3 blocks in our orchard. 1, 2, 3. So all these 3 blocks or the gradients must have irrigation channel. For every 30-meter length of channel, 7.5 centimeter slope should be given for the proper irrigation. Roads should occupy minimum space for the economy of transport. Okay, so our road availability of road should be there. Very easily we can go for transportation our fruit after harvestation. The clearance between the windbreak and the first row of trees is advantageous for the road. So there must be windbreak, right? Suppose this is an orchard. This is an orchard. Then there must be these trees like this. This is called windbreak. So these windbreak are very important. So short growing trees should be allotted at the front and the tall at the back for easy watching to improve the appearance. So this is done so that there should not be any type of you can say contamination or disease exposure to our fruit crops. Evergreen tree should be in the front and the deciduous ones behind. So we can have evergreen trees because they are green throughout the year. So this can be a hindrance to whatever for the wind, for the disease, right? So the evergreen should be in front and the deciduous one that can be behind. Fruit attracting birds and animals should be close to the watchman shed. So there should be a watchman shed that can have a watch over the birds that attract the fruits, right? Animals that can harm to our production, that can eat away the fruit that are growing. So all these things should be properly managed. A good fence is also very, very important. Live fencing is economic and cheap to other kind of fences. The plant suitable for the live fencing should be drought resistance and easy to propagate from seed, quick growing, have dense foliage, should stand severe pruning, and should be thorny. So the plants that are that are suitable for the live fencing. Live fencing means the plants are actually working as a fencing. So we can have some plants that can be grown throughout the boundary of the orchard, and they will work as a fencing, right? And that should be drought resistant. That means for for growing them we do not require a lot of effort, lot of water. They can easily be propagated from the seeds, quick growing, and have a dense foliage. Very, very important. Otherwise they will not be working as a fence. Agave, prosopis, juliflora, Pithicolumbium dulce, and Thivetia is closely planted in 3 rows and would serve as a good live fencing. So these are some of the plants that can be grown used for growing the live fencing. Wind breaks. Rows of tall trees planted together, close together around the orchard are essential to resist the velocity of the wind, which cause severe ill effects, particularly the moisture evaporation from the soil. So if there will be a lot of wind coming to our orchard, then there will be loss of moisture from the soil. So if we are having the tall trees planted all over the boundary of our orchard, right, then there will be we can stop this wind, and there will be no loss of moisture from the soil through evaporation. Since the windbreaks are very effective in reducing the wind velocity and minimizing the damage of the fruit trees to other crops, their presence in regions where strong wind prevails is a paramount important. So the region that are always having you can say strong winds, so there must be these windbreak trees should be planted, right? So that there should not be any type of damage to crop. A windbreak ordinarily has its maximum effectiveness for a distance about 4 times as great as its height, but has some effect over twice about that distance. The most effective windbreak is a double row of tall trees alternatively placed. So we can have a planting of trees like this. Suppose this is the first row and we are having some gaps, you can see. This is the first row of windbreak. Now we will have like this second row like this. So whatever the gap is there, in the next row we are planting the trees there, right? So this is the second row. In this way we can totally block the entry of strong winds to our orchard, and there will be no loss to the plant, no damage to the plant. There should be at least as much as a space between the windbreak and the first row of the trees as between the fruit trees. So there must be space left between the windbreak and the first row of the fruit as between the fruit trees. So the whatever the space we are leaving in the first row, same amount of space should be left in the second row also. So it is preferable to dig a trench of 90 centimeter deep at a distance of 3 meters from the windbreak trees and prune and cut all the root exposed and again fill the trenches. This may be repeated for every 3 or 4 years in order to avoid the competition between the windbreak and fruit trees for the moisture and nutrition. Trees suitable for the windbreak should be erect. This is very important. The trees which we are Opting to grow as a windbreak that should stand erect, tall and quick growing, hardy and drought resistant, and mechanically strong and dense to offer maximum resistance to wind. The trees which are suitable for growing as a windbreaks are Casuarina equisetifolia, Pterospermum esrifolium, Polyalthia longifolia, Eucalyptus globulus, Grevillea robusta, and Azar directa indica, that is neem. So these are some of the species that can be, or the trees that can be grown for the windbreak. So here you can see these are the your orchard. Suppose this is the orchard and you have this windbreak. So you can grow any type of crop, fruit crop here, but there will not be any wind to destroy your crop, right? So this is all about this session. We will have some more session to understand orchard management. Till then, thank you very much.